This is the Texas Land Guys podcast, hosted by brothers Tim Dosch and Tom Dosch. With their partners David Marshall and Trip Rich, they have built DMRE, the leading land brokerage in Texas. With decades of experience brokering deals between landowners and real estate developers, they take you inside the deals that move the market.
Welcome to the Texas Land Guys podcast. We have a guest with us today in the Houston office, Taylor Ince. Taylor, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
We're excited to be celebrating Christmas this week. And so Tim and I wanted to have Taylor on. And Tim, I'm going to let you introduce Taylor since he's there in our office, not just today, but on a weekly basis.
Yeah, so Taylor is, I call him like our office chaplain. So he's a pastor at a church here in Houston called Sojourn. And we're blessed to have him here. It's been like 4 years now, or
I think that's right.
Yeah, 4 years.
Yeah.
And so he and Chase, who pastors with him, are down the hall in our office, and they lead a weekly Bible study, which has been amazing. And then Taylor has just been so gracious to be spending time with our guys, different employees here at our company, and meeting for breakfast or lunch or coffee, and just being a resource to, whatever they're going through in life, questions that they have. And we've loved having you here with us. It's been awesome. And we've been friends now for a couple of decades, so It makes it pretty special.
Yeah, and then there was a big hiatus, and I lived in different countries, and you were doing things, building companies, and then we were having kids, and then I came back. And for the past 4 years, it's been so sweet to really share life together.
Absolutely.
But we love being here. We absolutely love it. I feel like I won the lottery every day, seriously. We'll explain that more, but it's been awesome.
Well, it's been cool because we talk a lot about, and we've talked on this podcast about, real purpose and meaning, and how in our business we can get into just doing deals and making money and, living for the things of this world. And there's a constant drive every year. It's not what'd you do last year. It's what am I going to do this year?
Sure.
How many deals am I going to do? Wanting to be successful, wanting to be a dominant company. And we can forget, the grounding that we have in the Lord and what's truly important, which is our faith and living for the Lord. And we talked before we started recording about calling and how there can be a calling to full-time ministry, but there's actually a calling for every single one of us.
That's right.
That God has to be faithful where he puts us, whether that's as a real estate broker and a lawyer, a doctor, teacher, whatever that might be. And so having you in the office with us has been so incredible, because there's always that reminder. There might be a stressful thing going on a deal, but I see Taylor preparing a message, and or I see Chase, studying for a seminary class, and it's such a great reminder of, hey, there's more than just what I'm dealing with right now.
Yeah.
So
and the Lord, hopefully a reminder, like you said, that the Lord is he's not just the Savior, he's the Lord of all, he's the creator. And so everything I do matters, and a reminder, all the deals I'm doing, it's all for him, and we just need to be brought back to that constantly. And so I'm glad that we can be a sort of catfish in the trout pond, you see me and you're like, oh yeah. I hope that I'm like that wherever I go, but yeah.
No, totally. So. Maybe just share from your perspective, because I think sometimes as a pastor, you can get a little bit siloed and
big time.
Just, being in the ministry, and maybe you have friends that are in business or whatever, but you're not necessarily spending day in and day out with them.
Right.
How has that been for you?
One of my favorite things about being here is that I think I've told you guys this before, but like we're not a church plant anymore. We still feel like one because we're a small church, and but we planted 10 years ago. And every church plant, almost by definition, like you don't have a building. Some do, but you don't have a building. You don't have any money. So and you certainly, because you don't have a building, you don't have office space. So you got to either work at a Starbucks or rent some space or whatever. Figure it out. Work out of your house, and we did all that. But just being, I've said that, like, even if we had a really nice building and nice church offices, like, I would rather be here. Mm-hmm. And so I'm glad that we didn't have those things, because I discovered how wonderful it is to be chopping it up with you guys Monday through Friday here in the office with some believers, some unbelievers, all you guys working on deals. And we're not cloistered. We are in the world, working alongside of you, and getting, hopefully, to shine the light of Christ, getting to do our own thing, benefiting from being here. You guys don't make us pay rent. There were no strings attached. It wasn't like, and I've talked to a lot of different guys who are interested in doing this, and I know I would love to talk more about that later, but they're like, man, maybe I should require this or that of them. I'm like, man, when the Dosch brothers asked us to come on or invited us in, it was just no strings attached, just take the space. You guys love the Lord, and you gifted that to us. And then the Bible study just kind of eventuated, kind of came about.
Yeah.
And then relationships with the guys have sort of developed. And it's just so good for us to be here.
Yeah.
And even if we right now had a wonderful building and wonderful offices, I would still come here if you guys let us.
Of course. Yeah. That's awesome.
It's great for us. We love it.
Yeah. That's great to hear.
I think I've been a little bit jealous from Dallas because Tim and I have talked about how much we would like to have somebody up here in Dallas. And I have friends, different pastors I know, but they're just in a different part of town. And so what was really neat about your opportunity to come into our office is your church, the whole focus was always around kind of where our office is. And so it really works. You're in the community that you want to be in. That's also where we office. And so, but if someone is listening, we would love to have somebody here in Dallas in our office as well, if that worked out. And I think prior to you being in the Houston office, we had Omar there. And
that's right.
And that was a blessing. And we just saw the blessing that was. And then he moved his family to Mexico and is doing incredible things down there. And it's just been, I think it's been great to have you there. And it would be something I would love for our team up here to get to experience as well if the Lord provided it.
Well, if somebody is listening, like you said, I know they'd be super blessed by being able to be at your office. So it's been a huge blessing for us. And I do remember, speaking of Omar, of course, I know Omar well.
Yeah.
One of our friends calls him Mexican Jesus. You know?
That's right.
I hope he doesn't mind me saying that, but it's a compliment.
Yeah.
And he just full of the Holy Spirit, loves Jesus, humble, loving guy. And I remember when I called 4 years ago, it was just so providential. So the Lord's timing, because through your kindness, he was like, hey, and through God's providence moving him out, he's like, yeah, Omar is literally about to move to Mexico. God's called him to go back. And so there's a space open. And so
it was perfect timing. Yeah. And the thing that was cool about Omar is he was doing more Christian counseling and kind of prayer ministry. So we'd have all these people coming in for counseling during the middle of the workday.
Oh, wow.
You'd have a developer coming in looking at sites, and then you'd have a guy coming in who's having a struggle in his marriage or something. Omar would be meeting with them. And so we've always loved that. I mean, there's something so beautiful about creating that space, for ministry to happen within your office.
Right.
That I think is just, I mean, it's almost like you can't put into words, the value of that. And I think far from like trying to get people to give you something or to, pay you or whatever, it's like, man, we're getting so much more than that just by you guys being here and really bringing God's presence in here in an active way to do ministry. So it's been super, super cool.
Thanks, man. I love the mutual beneficence of it. We're benefiting as a church, and hopefully as the church in the world, you guys, like you're saying, our company is benefiting. So it makes me, I get chuffed, as to use a Scottish phrase, it makes me happy.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I thought what we could do maybe is back up a little bit because we met over 20 years ago now. And
we're that old, Tim?
Yes. A singles class called The Increase. And you were the director back then, and I was the assistant director. And that was a really fun time. And then shortly after that, we went to India together, and we spoke at
January 2007.
That's right, yeah. And we spoke at a pastor's conference together in Bangalore, just outside Bangalore. We had, it was like 400 pastors or something, and they were speaking, I think, 4 or 5 different languages, and it was through interpreters, and that was just a really cool time. And I think it was such a cool time to see, because obviously I didn't go into the ministry after that. I was in real estate. I stayed in real estate, but you had been called into ministry. And at that point, you were already on that path. I think you were in seminary. But I would love to just hear a little bit from you, because you grew up in Houston, went to Second Baptist, had all kinds of opportunity from a business standpoint. You felt like, hey, I want to be an attorney, and you went to law school for a year. And then that just wasn't where God was calling you.
Yeah.
And I don't want to tell your story for you, but I'd love to hear about that calling part, because I remember knowing you at that time and being, sort of on that outside, but seeing you go through that process. And then you made a complete change in your life. And that was where I felt like God just put his hand on you from that point forward.
Yeah, well, thanks. Yeah, I think I love when people can go into law. It's a noble profession, and we need more lawyers that are, truth speakers and doing truth and justice and good at what they do. But yeah, I think I ran to that because I was running. I think I was, in retrospect, running from the call. In the time, I don't think I realized it, but my granddad was a trial lawyer 55 years, and it's in my blood. I mean, just my skill sets are like arguing, speaking, writing, reading. And there's a lot of carryover, I think, professionally between being an attorney and an advocate, and then advocating for the gospel. Yeah, like John Calvin, Martin Luther,
Paul.
they were headed to law school. Paul and advocate, and so, but I was down that path, in the retrospect, I think running from the Lord, but he was just kind of pulling me in on a rope and I didn't realize it. Jonah's one of my favorite prophets because I can't take credit. It's just like, I went this way. God was patient,
Yeah.
I think the fish that swallowed me may have been law school, but he gave me a second, third, fourth chance. But I was walking out of constitutional law one day, blue sky day in March, I believe, 2005, walking out of constitutional law at University of Houston Law School. And somewhere between, I could take you back to like the 2 or 3 square yards of pavement where
Wow.
it was, somewhere between the law building and the parking lot. I was going home to study, of course, because that's all I did. Was God? It was just like 2 things happened, and it probably happened in a number of seconds, but it felt like a minute or 2. First thing he showed me was just a clear picture of me as a lawyer, as an attorney, 10 years in the future, and just how it's a noble profession, but it wouldn't be a fit for me. I was miserable. It was like a film noir. Everything was gray, black and white, and I was behind this huge desk of papers, probably doing discovery work.
Yeah.
And I was just unhappy, and it was just that impression. It was very clear. And then the next was sort of a surrender. It was like a light switch went on, and I felt like my hands were up in the air, but I don't think that they were. But I felt like the Lord sort of had a gun on me, a gun of grace, as it were. And I just felt utterly compelled, and at the same time, to steal a phrase from C.S. Lewis, utterly compelled and utterly free all at the same time.
Wow.
And it was like a light switched on, and I just went, yes, I surrendered to the call of my life to preach the gospel and pastor. And so I literally only went back to that campus one time to sign papers saying I'm out. And just people that knew me said, it's about time, So that was kind of it wasn't a conversion, but it was a surrender to the call that I think I've been running from, to preach the gospel, and then to equip the saints, equip other people for the work of the ministry, whether in real estate or law or gardening or homemaking or wherever they happen to be. So that's a little smidgen, and then off to the races after that, seminary, and met you and directed a class, and then other stuff, got married.
Yeah.
So.
That's awesome. And then Tom, you met Taylor, I'm sure a long time ago, but you and Jackie went to his church probably around the beginning. And so you have a neat connection with Taylor and his brother Nathaniel as well.
Yeah, definitely. I probably did meet you, Taylor, back in those early days when I was like middle school or high school back in the early 2000s.
Thinking about Tom in middle school is happy.
But I do remember Jackie and I were coming back from doing some mission work overseas, and we had been in the Middle East quite a bit. And Tim said, Taylor Ince just started a church near the Galleria, and they picked that area because they really want to reach out to the community in that area. And so I remember going to lunch at some spot there south of the Galleria that had like really good Lebanese food. I can't remember the name of it now. Which one we went to. But I remember just meeting you and your passion for the area, that part of Houston, and how excited you were, and the church you guys had started. And then Nathaniel too, your brother, just such an incredible guy. Somebody that I think both of you, I just felt like I connected with so quickly, and we just had a lot of fun both there at that church, and then also getting to travel some together. I think Nathaniel and I went to Turkey with your brother-in-law Jason, and then you and I went to Israel, and I think Nathaniel was on that trip too.
And I went because courtesy of you guys. Tim didn't end up going, but you both funded. And that wasn't the last trip of mine that you funded. So we'll talk maybe more about that later. But one of my favorite Tom stories when you guys were with us, worshiping with us, and it was so good. And one of my old friends, he was a member there at the time, and he saw Tim was anchoring. You remember the word anchoring? You remember what that was? You were giving announcements.
Yeah.
And you're kind of doing other things throughout the service to sort of anchor it. And Tom was up doing his thing, and my friend had never seen Tom, and Tom goes, it's like Taylor 2.0, which is so true. It's so funny and it's so true.
That's funny.
Anyway,
that's great. Yeah. But do you want to talk a little bit about the trip you were just on? Because I think it's one thing you've continued to do. You're obviously officing with us. You have the local ministry. You have the church there in the area. But then also you continue to want to teach and spread the gospel globally too. And so you've had a couple of pretty neat opportunities to do that. Do you want to talk about the trip you were just on?
I'd love to. Thanks. So in March, first of all, your dad set me up with this ministry, actually here in this room before it was a podcast room. I met with Stuart Sheehan, who's really built, he didn't start it, but he really made World Hope Ministries International, WHMI. I call it World Hope, kind of what it is, and is still working, still leading today. Lives here in Houston. But Stuart and I met, and they train, apparently like 85% of pastors around the world are under-resourced. Just they're pastoring, they're doing the work of the ministry, they're planting churches, they're tending to congregations, they're sharing the gospel, they're equipping the saints for the work of the ministry, but they really are under-taught. And so that can lead to heresy, it can lead to burnout, all sorts of things. And then you're not able to pass that on to the next. And so you're kind of thin theologically. And so, I mean, I've got advanced training, I've been a pastor for 10 years, I planted, maybe I have something to give. So your dad introduced us, and then I was able to take in March our first trip to Latvia, France. We went to Paris and Strasbourg, and then Slovenia. And then I went back, and you guys sent me this. You funded the trip, as you know, but I want your listeners to know. So generous. Funded the trip, enabled me to go back to Slovenia. I had a relationship with these guys. Super dark country, 10th highest suicide rate in the world, 14th least reached people in the world.
Wow.
And right there in the Balkans, you have to pass through. If you're going from Italy to Croatia, you have to pass through Slovenia, as far as I know. And so went there, and it was an amazing time. It's like 60 leaders and pastors, and we got to teach the whole Testament in about a day and a half. And just to get to see how hungry they are and to get to offload that kind of content and then train them up to go then take that material and pass it on themselves. So our goal is like, don't rely on us. We want to pass it on. And so it's just such a blessing. I love those trips.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It seems like a specific part of your calling, which we started all the way back in India, is you have a heart for pastors and for planting churches, which I think is pretty unique. Because there's a lot of pastors who want to, not to be negative, but they want to kind of build a little kingdom and just get bigger and bigger as a church. You have a heart, to spread the gospel and to plant these churches. And if you look at the Christianity globally, it's all these church plants around the world, and there's a huge need to train pastors and to support pastors. There's incredible spiritual warfare, just all kinds of adversity that they're facing, and needing someone like you to come alongside and encourage them and support them and teach them. So it's just seeing kind of what God's brought you through, and you have a unique skill set, and it just seems like there's going to be another chapter of the story that hasn't been written yet, but that's coming. That's going to include, I don't know how it looks, but it include more of that.
I feel like this became a coaching counseling session. I was like, dang, can I pay you for this? This is so I received that. It's so good. Yeah, it resonates. Amen.
I remember when we were in India together, we had this sense like maybe Taylor's going to end up here or something someday, just because you have that heart. I think that's unique, because I think a lot of pastors maybe it's easy to get comfortable here. And you can get very comfortable in the United States as a pastor. Not that, I'm not trying to, it's not negative or wrong, but to have a heart to go to the nations, and to spread the gospel.
And also who've come here, right?
Yeah.
So going, but then, of course, Houston's one of the most international cities. Maybe it might be the most international city in history, not just in America, but in history. And so just both, right? And so the fact that we can reach the nations by reaching a neighbor and reach them here, and World Hope's starting to do that too. So I'm really pumped about training up our church with the material, but also then training up pastors around the city that are under-resourced here that are just from all over the world. And so, And you were talking about, I know you've really reached out to Muslims and to I guess to imams and to rabbis. Yeah, in Houston, and really developed relationships and spent time with them, which is also really, really cool. Yeah, so we kind of fell in Edinburgh. We sort of fell in love with Muslims and just seeing them, loving them, being loved by them. It's not a one-way street. Like, man, they were some of our best friends. Like when we had to move house, they would be the ones who would be going up and down with, I remember one of our friends, Arsham, he had a bed sheet full of all of our stuff, like Santa Claus, but it was just our stuff full of, right over his shoulder, walking up three flights of stairs to move up our apartment. And those are our Iranian friends. And they were just some of our best, most loyal, wonderful friends. They'd have us over and she'd cook fesanjan for me, my favorite Iranian dish. And so they were such great friends to us, and we had the privilege of sharing the gospel with them in our lives and in and in the actual verbal content to share what God has done for us in Christ. And then gained that oddly in Edinburgh, Scotland, where we studied, and then bringing it back here where there are, I think, over 300,000 Muslims in the city and growing. And we live right there at Hillcroft and Westheimer, Fondren, Richmond, and beyond. South of us is like the highest concentration of Arabs in the city. Yeah. As well as if you go north of Westheimer, as you guys know, the Memorial Villages, it's white, rich, educated, East Asian. And so it's two different worlds that collide. And I love that collision. I love that liminal space. And that's part of what we're called to, like Tom was saying, that Galleria but it's really Houston,
Yeah.
It's kind of a microcosm of Houston.
Houston's amazing. Yeah. The nations have come to us. And that's a great point you're making, is having a heart for the nations, but not just overseas, but having a heart for the people that
across
are here.
the street.
That you rub shoulders with at the grocery store or whatever.
Totally.
Yeah, I was describing an area of Dallas to a cousin of Tim and mine yesterday morning, who's a worship pastor. And he's up in kind of the McKinney area, so northern Dallas, very different, high demographic, really, really nice part of the city. And I was describing a different part of town where really all of the refugees are being placed and brought in. It's very similar, Taylor, to some of the area you were just talking about. And it's like there's these areas of Houston and Dallas that you just never go to. Like you'd have to have a reason to go there normally. You'd have to be very intentional. I think that's what you're talking about, is you can be in the States and you can kind of be just in the good demographics, the very whatever it is, your ethnicity, you're just very focused in that area. Or you can choose to realize that the nations have really come to the United States and they've come to Texas. I mean, Houston is so diverse. And then there's the population growth of Texas in general. A lot of that population is people from other countries. And that's really a pretty exciting opportunity for us, because you don't have to go overseas to experience that. There's a lot of reasons why going overseas is difficult and it's expensive and all that, but there's opportunity if you're willing to just go to a different part of town. It's maybe not the part of town you normally go to. And there's some really neat ministries doing great work and churches doing great work in these areas, but it's a real commitment. I remember when you started Sojourn down in that area, that was a real commitment. It'd be a lot easier to go start it like up in the Memorial Villages and call all your friends and all the guys you went to high school with at Second Baptist. And that would just be an easier way. Because
I tried that. It didn't work. I don't want to take credit. I'm just let it be said.
But I think a lot of times it's like what's like the business way to do it. We're going to go after the bigger donors, the people that have the deeper pockets, kind of keep the church going. Or there's we're just going to go where God's calling us and the provision's going to have to follow, and he will provide. And I think he's done that for you guys. And I just know that's been a sacrifice too. And it's been a big encouragement to Tim and I just to see after 10 years, continuing to minister in those areas and continuing to try to pursue, all these people that have come into our cities.
Amen. Such an opportunity. And, we could talk all the rest of the podcast about this, but those are great points, Tom. And just even just think about one more aspect of it, that they're making so much effort to come here, and they typically want to integrate. And most of them, let's just say most Muslim Arabs, that, the stats do show that so many refugees and immigrants never get into, the home of let's just say white American like me. Yeah. They just don't so the chance to go out and meet them and befriend them and then invite them in is huge. And they're, as opposed to having to learn another language, go to their culture, be on their turf. They're on ours. So just using that as a lever for the gospel. And just on a non-gospel note, but kind of gospel note, we share Christ with them whenever we go, in a sense. But we were just last night on date night, Tom, just talking about our area and how rich it is. But we were just 5-minute drive south of us it's literally called the Mahatma Gandhi district. It's 2015. It was christened. It was named that. And Himalaya, probably my favorite restaurant in town, Kaiser Lashkari. He used to work at the Ritz. He's a gourmet chef, and he's like the soup Nazi. It's like, if you do something wrong, you're out. But you keep coming back because the food's so good, and he's such a personality. And we were just talking with him last night, and we prayed at the table, and he's like, man, so few people say grace now, and we're talking about the Lord, and I gave him prodigal God, and cool. So there's this, but it's some of the best Indo-Pac food in the world, and it's right there 5 minutes from my house, and then we get to these relationships, and
that's awesome.
Yeah. Do you want to speak, Taylor, to just it being Christmas and kind of connecting these thoughts we're having? You're officing with a real estate company, and I think we were saying before we started recording, in our business, it's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day of the deals, and it can be a really segmenting out your kind of your Christian life and your business life. And there's the church on the weekends maybe. And that's still kind of cultural in Texas, that a lot of people are still going to church, but then it doesn't necessarily translate into the week. But then something like Christmas comes around, and obviously Christmas and Easter, a lot of people will end up going to church. And so, even for you, as you're preparing for another Christmas Eve service and another Christmas, and you've done a lot of those now, just what are you really looking to communicate and excited to communicate this Christmas, and and thinking about knowing you'll have unbelievers coming, you'll have believers that are really familiar, but the power of the gospel and just the opportunity to know people are maybe just a little bit more open at this time of year to thinking about these things and more time with family and the end of the year and, just backing up a little bit from the day-to-day grind that we're all going throughout the year.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to talk about that. Yeah, one of my prayers every year is that God would keep it fresh and make it more fresh to me. Because you throughout the year I'm teaching from different parts of the Bible and on different themes and topics as appropriate as the Lord leads. But Christmas and Easter, you're talking about the same thing every year. And so one of the huge occupational hazards for me, one of many, would be just that this would get stale, that this would just be a profession, my job. As opposed to, if this stuff is real, if it's true, if it's not true, let's all go do something else. I'm wasting my time. If it's true, if God really was born of a virgin and came down and chose to be nailed to a cross for us, using our sin and evil to save us, to bear our sins, then, and I haven't gotten to the content yet, but I'm already getting into it, but I can't keep a preacher from preaching, But if that's true, if God chose to do that to save us, then then the only logical response, as Paul says, in Romans 12:1, I think, is to give him everything. And so either way, fighting that every year, Lord, help this to be fresh. And this year, Tom, thanks for asking, we're going to be in John's prologue. So John's gospel, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, the fourth gospel, very different, the most different out of the other. He wrote it last. And so I think he kind of he thought differently. He was more of a philosopher, maybe quieter, kind of picking up on things that other people didn't pick up on. So he reads the first three gospels that are out. And I think he's like, let me give the same truth from a different angle. And so John starts out, there's no birth narrative. He just starts out in the beginning. You guys could say the first verse with me. Maybe I'll ask you to, right? In the beginning was the Word.
The Word was with God and the Word was God.
There it is. Yeah. And the Word is with God. The Word was with God and the Word was God. And so, I was just reading it this morning, but just to get to soak in that truth again and to be re-wowed by the fact that the eternal, and I'm not going to unpack the text here, but just thinking about the prologue, and we'll have a few weeks to walk through it as a church, which I'm excited about. But the fact that John tells us before anything was, from all eternity, God was, and God is the Word. He's the intelligence behind all things. There's the DNA coding, which is more than energy. It's like coding that's more complicated by orders of magnitude than any computer code anybody could write, any human could write. The DNA strand, all the wonders that we see in the universe, like the fact that we're speaking, the fact that we have libraries full of books, that's because God has made us in his image and he is Word. He is articulation. He's intelligence itself. He's the intelligence behind all things, as the Greeks talked about. He's the logos. That's the Greek word that's used. And this intelligence that's behind all things, this power, this goodness, this beauty was with God. Okay, so he's with God. He's not the Father, but which John goes on to tell us, but he was God. He's also fully God, and he's in communion with the Father. And then John just fast forward through the text, and I'm excited to get to this and over the course of 5 weeks with my people. But in the fullness of time, to save us from our sins, the fact that we had turned from him and had brought curse into the world and into our hearts and had severed ourselves from relationship with him, he stepped into time. And John says in John 1:14, he became. He didn't just take on flesh. He became true man. He became flesh. And he uses the crudest word for flesh, sarx in the Greek, basically a bag of skin and bones. He became skin and bones. Remaining God, he became a true human. He became what he was not, he who had been from all eternity. And to identify with us and to represent us in his life, to live the life that we should live but can't, and to die the death that we deserve on the cross. He chose using our sin and evil. No excuses. We're responsible for it. He opened up a wide way of salvation by becoming the curse that was on us because of our disobedience. And he bore that curse on the cross. And anyone who looks to him is saved. And then he rose from the dead 3 days later. And that was the Father's stamp of approval, saying, all the sins that you paid for anyone who looks to you to be saved, your payment is completely sufficient. They're free. They're free from all that bound them before. They're free from the domain of Satan. I'm bringing them back into the kingdom of my love. He was rejected for us to be accepted. And then John finishes the prologue just by saying, he became flesh. He lived among us. We ate with him. We saw him crucified. We saw the empty tomb. We met with him after he was resurrected. And then he says, he finishes the prologue by saying this, such a sweet verse. He says, no one has ever seen God. Because God is spirit. No one has ever seen God, but He calls Jesus the only God, but the only God who is at the Father's right side. And the word in the Greek is in his bosom. He's as close to God, the Father, as you can get. Perfect relationship. He's with the Father. He's not the Father, but he is fully God. No one has ever seen God, but the only God explains him. And the word he uses there in the Greek is he exegetes him. He shows us exactly in his he's the articulation of the unseen God. When we see Jesus touching the untouchable, healing, full of compassion, speaking truth to power, spending time with his Father, raising people from the dead, bearing our sins on the cross, becoming a curse to set us free. We see exactly when he says, "Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing." As we are crucifying him, and he's forgiving his crucifiers, we see that's exactly what God's like. That's the ticking heart of the living God. There's no other God behind him. He is the articulation, the unpacking of the true God. So how could that be stale, right? So the Lord I just so look forward to it, but it can be because of my sin. It can become just humdrum, and what a curse that would be. So,
and John, it's so interesting it's so awesome that you're going to John, and what you just said is incredible. But it's also probably kind of the book that doesn't get talked about at Christmas, because normally you go to Luke or you go one of the other. Because they get into more of the actual Christmas story that we talk about, the wise men or the shepherds or all that. But it's interesting how John kind of rewinds and goes back further and says, wait a second, do you know who this is? Because I think sometimes we think of Jesus just as the incarnation, is the man that was here,
right?
Which is a representation of him. But John is saying, wait a second, he's bigger than that.
He's always been.
Yeah,
he's the eternal I am.
Yeah, and so that's so cool to get that perspective. It's a deeper perspective. So
yeah. Thanks. They get me excited.
Yeah, I can tell that you're excited and there's passion behind it. That's awesome.
You get the preacher preaching. I'm sorry.
Well, I remember several Christmases ago going to your house a couple of weeks before Christmas, and I can't remember what you called it, because you always have good names for everything. I feel like it comes from your Edinburgh days, being in Scotland. But it was like a time where we went to your house, just the church, and I think we ate, and then we just like sang Christmas carols and hymns and songs. It was I just remember it being a really unique, like special time. Just thinking about preparing our hearts for Christmas. Like you said, it's either you're kind of like all in, or it doesn't really matter, because there shouldn't really be an in between.
There really shouldn't be.
When you think about when you think about God being born on earth as a man, it's just an incredible thing, incredible thought. But we can be so familiar with it, and we can kind of get caught up in the nostalgia of things that, like, the wise men weren't really there, when he was born, but things that we just kind of add to the story to make it, a story you could tell kids, and we don't really necessarily, move on and really think deeply about what it is.
Right.
But thanks for sharing all that. I mean,
thanks for the
you're definitely ready to go for the service.
Thanks.
Maybe talk about, I'd love to hear your thoughts, Taylor. So many people fall into, going to church on Christmas, going to church on Easter. I think especially since COVID. I mean, COVID was devastating in a lot of ways, because people who had been going to church and that was part of just their routine just got out of the habit of going to church, especially kind of probably people our age, middle-aged people that are already busy. They got kids and they got stuff going on. And churches, it's hard to go to church. It's hard to get the kids up.
The sacrifice.
Get ready. Get everybody ready. People are crying, whatever. And
yes, always on Sunday.
Get to church. And so people have fallen out of that, and people go to church. Christmas is this time, like Tom mentioned, kind of the nostalgic time. Like, we go to Christmas Eve service or something, or we go to Easter service. But maybe just is an encouragement to our listeners, why would it be great to maybe go to church this Christmas, but then continue in January, and not just as a New Year's resolution that maybe you stop by February, but just to commit to a local Bible teaching, Bible believing church and that Christian community.
That's good. Yeah. I think we were talking the other day, maybe it was at a different Bible study. They kind of run together sometimes, but we have a Bible study here, as y'all said, midweek on Wednesdays. It was some Bible study this week, and we were just talking about, it was at Turtle Box. On one of the founders is a member of our congregation. He leads a Bible study on Tuesday mornings out of their office. And one of the guys was just saying, isn't it enough just to have God? And of course, yes, oh God, you have made us for yourself, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you, right? He made us for himself. We can go after other stuff, but until we find that he made us for him, and we come to him through Jesus Christ alone, we're going to be restless, right? But so that's true. But then I was just saying, that is true, but in Genesis, it's surprising, especially when you read it in the Hebrew, because it's just unfamiliar. But it's, in Genesis 1, a lot of us know, it was good, it was good, it was good. God makes all these things, and he finishes with the crescendo, the cherry on top, with man and then woman. Whoa. And the crown of his creation, his image bearers, and it's all good, 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 good. That's the refrain. It's good, it's good, it's very good, right? And as he finishes, Genesis 2 comes along, and what a surprise. And it's in the Hebrew, it's tov, 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 lo tov. It's not good. And it's the first time you see that in the Bible. And it's supposed to like be a symbol in your face. It's not good for man to be alone. Well, the thing is, and I told my friend this, he's not alone. He's with God. God's standing there telling him that.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have a counterpart. My point is, we're made for community.
Yeah.
And we have community with the living God, but we were made for community with those of our kind together, for marriage, for fellowship. And so that's why solitary confinement, they say, is one of the worst punishments you can give somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And so made for community, and the community of the living God is his church. So a lot of times we say, go to church, and that's parlance, go to church. But really, the New Testament never speaks about the church that way. It's always the church is the people of the living God, his body that he's drawn to himself. He's our head, and we're his body, and he's united himself vitally to us. And to deny us would be to deny his own self. As through Christ, as we're saved and made a new people and brought into his family. And so being part of that, coming, seeing what that's like, sitting under the message, that's the gospel that's being proclaimed, seeing if these people are for real. Is there a difference here? Getting to taste of that beauty and getting to eat meals together and sing, but also go out into the world and have that fellowship and then be the church in the world, whether you're doing real estate or whatever, my point is we're made for that. And so it's more than just, it needs to be not only more than just Christmas and Easter, it needs to be more than just on a Sunday morning. It needs to be, man, we are the people of the living God. Anyone from any stripe, no matter your background, no matter your sin history, come to Christ, be saved, be reconciled to God. And become a people that are his own precious possession. And he comes to dwell inside, and he is making all things new. And we get to go out into the world as the church. And so that's sharing. It's really just sharing life together. And Sundays are a part of that. So I know that might be more than you were asking for, but
no, I think that expands on it, because I think it's a really good point you're making. Maybe the reason that people aren't going to church is what they have done historically is they go sit in a pew.
Right.
And that's not the point.
That's not the point.
There's no relationship. I hear a sermon and it's like, well, I could just get that on a podcast.
Yeah, I could get the info content.
Yeah, or I could listen to worship music in my car. Why do I need that? And the biblical call is not to go sit in a pew and listen to something and just be disconnected from it. It's to actually go be a part of what, Paul calls a body, and the idea is to be serving each other, to be working together. And that, God can just work directly in your heart, but God loves to love you through the people.
That's it.
He puts in your life.
It's not good for us to be alone.
Yeah,
and we figured that out during COVID, unfortunately.
That's right.
Much to our chagrin, and we realized it's not good. It's a huge punishment, and all things start to fall apart, all kind of things. And so, 100%. And one of the things that I've been thinking about recently, and you know this, Tom, John 13 and John 17. Back to John's gospel. Jesus says twice in those amazing chapters before he goes, right on the eve to the cross, he kind of gives this series of speeches as he's about to go to the cross. And the thing that he says over and over again is, he prays that we might be one, as he and the Father are one, so that we would be one in him by his Spirit. But then he says one of the chief ways that the world will know that he is the Messiah is by the way that we love one another. And so, it's not like you're saying, it's not just going on a Sunday and listening to info content. It is that and more, but it's so much more than that. It's the way that we love one another as he is among us, and forgive each other, and let your Romans 12:9, let your love be genuine, not fakeness, not pasted on smiles, not happy clappy Christianity, but going through pain, going through suffering with each other, bearing one another's burdens, forgiving each other, eating together, sharing life together. And drawing the world into that. The world will see that, and the way we love them and reach out to them and love our neighbors ourselves, and hopefully the justice we're doing, and on and on and on. Man, they'll go, I believe that Jesus is real because of the witness of the church, because of their love for each other and for me, the outside. Right. So,
and the joy of that. I mean, it's not like
the joy of that.
It's not. I think people are like, I don't want to have to do that. I don't want to have to. It's like, no, you're going to get so much more than you're giving. And so maybe that's the challenge for people, is maybe the old way that you went to church, and the reason you're not going right now is because it was stale and it was not life-giving. But there is a promise that it can be life-giving, but you have to really connect with other believers and develop relationships, and maybe go serve in some way.
You get what you give, in so many ways. And so with the healthy family, right? it's going in a healthy family, you're going to have responsibilities. I mean, Tom's got 5 kids. Can you think about the responsibility? I mean, that is a unit, man. And you got 4 and I have 3. So we're family men, but man, they have our kids. We have responsibilities. I had one this morning and it kept me from shaving, and so it's like, I got to make breakfast for my daughter.
Yeah.
So point is though, but as you pitch in and as you have your responsibilities and as you work and as you serve each other and get in fights and forgive, the richness so outweighs if you just were solo on your own, totally free and unencumbered. It's not rich.
Yeah.
Those commitments. Yeah. And so it's the same thing because the church is the family of God. It's not through our behavior. It's through the merit of Jesus Christ by faith in him.
Yeah.
Right?
There's a couple of things you said, Taylor, that made me think about just our business. And one of them was when I first started working with Tim and David, I saw the way that they work together. And I was like, that looks like they're having so much fun because they're constantly in each other's office. It was almost like they both had their own office, but they just always were in the same office because they were always talking to each other and talking about deals. And when I first started, I was kind of doing my own thing because they were working together. And so then I was trying to find my way. So I was doing my own thing. But it wasn't that much longer that we realized, let's try to do everything as a team. Like, let's try to figure out how we can work together, go to meetings together. And as simple as we've talked about, it's so much more fun to like go on a site drive or a meeting with someone else than by yourself. Right. Just like very simply, you have a win or a loss or something you want to talk about and being able to go talk to somebody about it and be able to share that together. There's something just about that simple thing that's so powerful. And so we have tried to really just, structure our company and the way we work as teams so that we can share together and you're not incentivized to hold things to yourself. And then the second thing I was going to say connected to that is just the money side of it is there's so much focus on making more money in a business where a lot of guys that I'll interview will say, the reason I'm attracted to real estate is there's no cap on the money I can make. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like you want to put in hard work and you want to be able to have more upside than, maybe a salary. But what you just described about what it could look like to live in community, to be loved by other people, to have real relationships. The reality is, if we're all honest, we would give up all the money if we could actually have that. If we could have real acceptance, if we could have people that care about us, that would be there when times are hard, when times are good, that we could talk to about things, like that we could be vulnerable with, we wouldn't be judged. I mean, it just, when you described that, it's like, that's amazing. We may never fully experience that until we're with the Lord in heaven, just because there's so much brokenness on this earth. But the closest we can be to that is going to be in a Christian community where people are willing to forgive, like you said, to fight, but then forgive each other and then grow through these opportunities. It's part of life. Yeah. Like I've made so many mistakes in my life and Tim and I have talked about just our spouses have been such a blessing in our life that they can call us out on things that they see they see us like nobody else sees us. Right.
That's right.
But
they're not going anywhere. The covenant. They're committed to us. We're committed to them. And so you can say the hard things and work. And I care enough about you and I want you to grow. That's what
we need to do. A marriage podcast after this. And Taylor, I think that'd be awesome. I think to your point, Tom, there's so much in our business where people are performing to be loved. It's being driven. And, if I'm really successful and if I make a lot of money and if I notch all these, wins in my belt, deep down, maybe without realizing, they're doing that to be loved and to be accepted and to be respected. I think as men, we can all struggle with that, maybe relate to that. What you're talking about is being able to set all that aside and say, I can be loved truly for who I am when people really know me and they really know my faults and my sin and my struggles, my fears, and, all this stuff that maybe I don't want people to know, but I can actually be open about that. And not just have human love, but have divine love coming through humans in my life. And there's nothing more freeing and more joyful and more rich about that, just being successful and having money and spending money and all these things that we do is so stale. And it just pales in comparison to the wealth that you can have in these relationships we're talking about. And so I think it's just an awesome thing for people to focus on this Christmas.
If I may, I was in Montrose yesterday, pulling out onto Shepherd, and I saw a bumper sticker behind me. Excuse me. How did I see?
I was like, wow.
Tim might have called me out on that. I saw a bumper sticker right in front of me that was turning on to Shepherd, and it said something like, "Don't worry, it gets far worse," or something like that. Things are going to get far worse, and it just reminds me of the gospel. Oddly enough, and it made me chuckle. It's like, I need to get that bumper sticker. But just the gospel, I mean, kind of Tim Keller-esque, right? Just saying a huge part of the content of the gospel is that take heart. You're far worse.
Yeah.
You're far worse than you dared imagine. What? That's part of what the cross tells us. The cross shows us this is what it required for God to make us right. Right, to be his children, to bring us into his presence and not be incinerated. This is the sin and evil had to be paid for because God is just. But the cross also shows us how deeply loved we are.
Yeah.
He made an infinitely costly sacrifice to save us. And so part of a Christian community, don't worry. You're far worse than you, but you're also far more loved. In other words, let love be genuine. It doesn't need to be artifice. It doesn't need to be saccharine. It doesn't need to be fake, because part of being a Christian community is I'm a sinner. That's what I tell our people. If you're not a sinner, you probably need to leave, because Christ has nothing for you. He came for one kind of person, sinners.
Yeah.
So like, God doesn't love me because of who I am. He loves me because of his great love and because he's lovely. And as I enter into that love through faith, he makes me as he is, lovely.
Yeah.
And so I can show people my faults, my sins, and that's actually a qualifier. I'm a sinner. I need help. And I'm deeply loved because his love is enough. And then that just works itself out in authenticity throughout the community. And then you invite other people into that. And we need that. Like you're saying, we need that kind of community.
I've been convicted lately of just how I don't see my sin as a big enough deal. You know, like I know I'm sinful. I've repented of my sin, obviously, but asking the Lord to bring more conviction on me, because I think we're really good at seeing other people's sin, like our spouse's sin.
I've got a PhD in that.
Because it's offensive. It's like, hey, you hurt me. You said that, you hurt me. You did that, it hurt me. You offended me, whatever. And it's like we are hurt by other people's sin and we see it clearly and we condemn it and we're judgmental towards it. But then with our sin, it's like, well, I mean, I make
excuses.
I'm really a pretty good guy, and I didn't. There's all these reasons.
It was
why.
complicated, but not for you. But it was complicated for me.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, I didn't really hurt them. They shouldn't be offended by my sin, you know. And so we downplay it, and like you're saying, the opposite of that. Wow, my sin is what took Christ to the cross. For me.
He died for me. Yeah.
And so I think it's the cool thing about that is it's not like this, you know, I got to beat myself up and all this stuff. It's like, no. I get to experience a deeper sense of God's love for me personally, not even just corporately, but for Tim, for me, when I understand the depth of my sin. Not that I wallow in that, but I can say, thank you, Lord, that you took that on the cross.
Amen.
And now I can
you were honest about it. You're not loving some false me. You're loving the real me, and you're not going anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Right? It's really awesome. I think it's just a great prayer that I'm praying personally, that God would just help me see it. Not that I want to, again, wallow in it, but that I want to have a clear picture of what he's saved me from and what he's calling me to. And that, you know, the gospel is not just a story, it's power. Over and over again in scripture, it says it's the power of God.
God's power to save, Romans 1:16.
And for us to walk in that power daily, I think
is to admit I'm a sinner.
Yeah.
And I'm greatly loved.
Yeah, you always talk about gospeling ourselves, like preaching the gospel.
Jason says, stop listening to yourself, start talking to yourself. And that's a line from Martin Lloyd-Jones. But start preaching to yourself. The truth, replace the lie with the truth.
Yeah.
Those are great points. And I think I think we've talked about this in this Bible study for sure. I know it was on Wednesday mornings, but the idea that syndrome that you're talking about, where it's easy for me to see your sin, I'm not pointing to Tim, but it's easy for me to see Tim's sin.
Yeah.
It's easy for me to see other people's sin. Super easy. Hard for me to see my own. That thing right there is evidence of the fact that there's something wrong with me.
Yeah, that's right.
Why is that so easy? Because I'm broken because of sin. It's not supposed to be like that. But then the other thing I wanted to say on that really astute point is the true story that I share a lot about G.K. Chesterton, who was C.S. Lewis is more famous. He was a contemporary, but about 20 years older, and influenced C.S. Lewis. Went from C.S. Lewis atheism to converting to taking the path to trusting in the Lord. But anyway, Chesterton was a thinker, philosopher, writer, comic, wit, wrote mystery novels, et cetera, and influential enough that he was sent sort of a questionnaire to write in by the London Times at one point. And what is wrong with the world? And I think that was Tim Keller just released a book. He's with the Lord now, but his family, he was kind of the last thing he wrote. And I don't know if you heard about this week, but his family just got it published like this week. It's like, I think the title is something like, What's Wrong with the World? And I'm preaching on Ecclesiastes right now in my church.
Wow.
So I'm actually, that's like basically the point of the book. The whole world's broken. What do we do? And so that resonated with me. But basically, that was the question the Times put to all these leading Illuminati, these thinkers in London and in England and in the UK at the time. What is wrong with the world? Send us your response. And G.K. Chesterton, classic Chestertonian, sent in the shortest response and the most pithy.
Was it me?
and the most true. He said, "Dear sir, is an answer to your question, what is wrong with the world? I am."
Yeah.
2 words. Sincerely yours, G.K. Chesterton. And that's it.
Yeah.
But I am. And so owning that, dude, think about a community where everyone is more concerned about owning. Think about that. Owning their own stuff.
Or a
marriage.
marriage.
And then not worrying about yours, but just loving you. Holy cow. If we could get halfway there, and that's what the Christian community is to be, and that's what the gospel sets us free to do.
Yeah.
Nothing else does.
Yeah. Awesome. That's awesome.
Taylor, you mentioned earlier just like your heart for wanting to see more guys be able to be in the position you're in, officing with different companies. And so I know you said you are trying to make some strides there, like talking to some people about that. Do you want to get into that anymore, just for if there is somebody listening, or maybe it prompts somebody listening that, would be able to bring a pastor on or something like that?
Tom has let me preach this gospel too. Gospel just means good news. So I really do feel like this is good news. I love the fact that, like we've already talked about, what you guys have done for us in saying we have this space. You're a church plant. You don't have a ton of money. We struggle to make budget every year. You don't have any space. Like almost by definition, at least at the beginning, church plants, they don't have space. One of my seminary professors, Mike Kruger, used to say, it seems like all the solid churches are meeting in basketball gyms or cafeterias, That's not true, of course. But when you plant a church especially, you don't have your own space typically. We were meeting, when Tom was with us, Tom and Jackie, we were meeting in Briar Grove Elementary School. And then COVID ended that. But we didn't have much money. We didn't have a space, and we still don't. We still rent, and we still struggle to make budget. And so being here just financially, you guys said, no strings attached. You don't need to lead anything. Just come, and we're not going to charge you. That grace, you talk about grace, that gift to us, no performance required. It has enabled us to thrive, to be with you guys, to, as you guys are in the world, just doing deals. It makes me want to do deals for the kingdom, and like get to work. And relationships have formed, and some people have come to the Lord and been encouraged in the Lord. And we have this Bible study, and we have the breakfast tacos brought in. And hopefully it just, for us, it's a blessing. I hope, and I think for y'all, it's a blessing. You guys invite us to the Christmas party every year. First time we went, I was like, y'all had a gift exchange, and I was like, I think we're gonna get a gift. I'm a freeloader. And then every year you guys let us take part. I get a number and I go get to steal a gift from Kenneth or whatever. It's amazing.
That's always fun.
Absolutely such a gift for us. So Tom, to answer your sort of prompt, thank you. I would love. It's been such a blessing to us. I'm working on trying to get as many businessmen or law firms or whatever it is, and as many church planters to be able to benefit from this kind of partnership as possible. Like let's leverage this. Let's see if we can bring this to scale. And instead of just having it kind of happen here and there, let's see if we can get hundreds of, because there are more and more in Houston, dozens every year of churches being planted through the Houston Church Planters Network. And then if that's the case, they need space and they don't have a lot of money. And so if you have extra space, if you love the Lord, or even if you just want to help a church out without even writing a tithe check, just open up a space in your office. And then I think it'll benefit the office as well. And it'll benefit the church, because the church is now in the world in a way where it's not cloistered over somewhere. They're not sitting in their house. They're with people who need Jesus. So it's just a cool partnership. And it's this mutual beneficence that just gets me fired up.
It's been incredible. Yeah, I mean, we can't say enough about it. And we need to be praying, Tom, for you guys in Dallas, that God would put someone in your office like that, because it's such a blessing. It's been awesome.
Thank you. We love it.
Taylor, this has been really fun. Thanks for being willing to come on the podcast. And, Christmas is definitely my favorite time of the year. So it's fun to have you on and get to spend a little bit more time with you. I am jealous that Tim gets to do this whenever he wants. He can walk down and go hang out with you. And
free counseling. No, he counsels me more than I counsel. You were counseling me just a second ago on the podcast. Tom, we miss you, man. But I know y'all are chopping it up there. We will pray for somebody.
Yeah.
And even just for their benefit, it's been such a blessing to us.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm ready for round 2, guys. I mean, can we do this again? Like, this is it. We're done. I'm so excited.
I'm serious about the marriage podcast. I'd love to get some pastoral wisdom on that.
Well, you can counsel me. You can give me wisdom too. I need it. I need help.
And then Tom and I have talked about doing something on leadership and just the ways leaders can be better leaders, but also the pitfalls and the dangers, maybe the lies that take down leaders. Because I know as a pastor, especially, you see a lot of good men get taken down, by things in this world and get sidelined, whether they're people in the ministry or they're people in business. There's a war going on out there. So I'd love to be a fun one to go through together.
Yeah, I don't know about fun, but let's do it.
Yeah. I would love to just hear your opinion on it.
That sounds great. I'm game anytime. I'm just right there, so you can.
That's right. Yeah.
Thank you.
And one thing about Taylor is he has more books than I've ever seen any human have. Sometimes I walk into his office and I can't see him.
Towers, yeah.
Because he's got like so many books. We need to actually get a picture of that. We'll put that on YouTube. Just
With
people
my
can
pipe
see.
in my mouth.
Yeah, he's got his pipe in his mouth. So that's all. I love that. I love it.
With a lot of people reading books kind of over the break or over, the holidays, would you have a couple top recommendations that I know you're very well read, but just a couple books that come to mind that aren't really
to
any
do with
topic.
Christmas?
It could be any topic. Yeah, leadership, spirituality, Christmas, whatever it would be.
Boy, that talk about a setup. Tim was like, "Hey, he reads so much," and then Tom said, "Give us a good book." Gosh, I'm drawing a blank. No, so of course, the scriptures. Maybe reading a gospel, maybe the Gospel of John, but during Christmas, so fitting. I think honestly, Tim Keller comes to mind immediately.
Oh, yeah.
The book I just mentioned, I'd be eager to buy it and read it. It just came out. I think he basically finished writing it, but hadn't gone through the publishing process, and his family was able to do that recently. So I think that's something like What's Wrong with the World. It came out this week. And then he wrote a book called Hidden Christmas. He also wrote a book on Easter during COVID when he was struggling, fighting against cancer and facing death himself. And it's called Hope in Times of Fear, and it's on the resurrection. Oh, I read that like in one sitting outside of a restaurant, and it just ministered to my soul. So I love Timothy Keller, pastor in New York and is now with the Lord, died of cancer a couple years ago. But those are just a couple. I mean, there's so much that I'm
one that comes to mind. You mentioned earlier, maybe if someone is not a Christian or maybe interested in the faith, I think that Prodigal God
is one of my favorites.
It's a paradigm shifting book because I think there's so much hypocrisy in the church and there's so much older brother in the church. If you look at that parable Jesus told where he's speaking to religious people and calling them out, and he's saying, hey, the heart of the Father is for the son that ran away and squandered everything and basically spit in his dad's face. And that's the love God has for each of us. But we can shift into being the older brother of I'm doing all these things, so I deserve this from you.
Right.
And short read, but very powerful.
Very good. You can almost fit it in your back pocket. Maybe my favorite Keller book to give away.
Yeah.
And so if you can get through that book without tearing up, I challenge you.
Or being extremely convicted.
Or being extremely, or both. And I think that I love that. And maybe last thing I'll say, I know we're trying to close the podcast down, but just the idea right there, you just encapsulate it so well of that in that parable or Jesus showing us and Keller showing us through Jesus' words that like we can fall off the horse, to use a Martin Luther sort of image, on one side or the other. As soon as we get back up and right ourselves, we can fall off the saddle on the other side. And that is like of irreligion and of just going crazy and just diving into all the hedonism and trying to find meaning through pleasure and everything else and money and power. And then we can do it through religion. We can do it through trying to follow the rules, but that's almost even more dangerous because then we can be inoculated from the gospel and think, well, I'm a Christian because the gospel is not follow the rules. The gospel is we are deeply broken, flawed, evil, sinful people that have offended the living God and justly sit under his wrath. And Jesus came and stepped in our place and took it for us. Whether it's through religion, trying to climb the ladder to God, or dissolution, he came down because without him coming down, we would never be saved. And so, what a wonderful book. Absolutely.
That's a great one. So.
Well, guys,
all right, this was fun. This is definitely round one. We'll do another one.
I'll hold you to it. Thank you, guys. Love y'all. Appreciate it,
guys.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Merry Christmas to our audience, and look forward to releasing more episodes next year. Have a good New Year, everyone.
Thank you for listening to our podcast today. If you have questions about land you own in Texas, send us an email at texaslandguys@dmre.com and follow us on LinkedIn to stay updated.